Okay, so shall we start?
Yeah.
Okay, so hi everyone. Welcome to the webinar, Opportunities in Open Finance, which is proudly brought to you by Blockchain Association of Singapore and Women in Blockchain. First, let us start off with a little context. Oh dear. Why can I not share the screen? Oh, I'm sorry. I don't know why I cannot.
What you struggling with, Orianna?
Ah, okay, there. Sorry, my PDF was a bit stuck. Technology. Okay, yeah. So open finance basically allows a little more in-depth data sharing across a broad range of financial products and services, and it actually holds the key to unlocking equal access to financial service. It also create a more accurate digital financial footprint and will also help to accelerate financial inclusion. So, opportunities in blockchain, we basically like Tezos, for example, they foster future blockchain talent with training and mentorship programs. They also upskill and connect leading industry experts to tackle new challenges and pioneer innovative solutions. So they are one example of how there are new opportunities in the blockchain and open finance sector. So without further ado, let me introduce to you our distinguished panel that we have the honor of having on today. First up, we have Seema. Seema is the co-founder of Pink Stripes, and Pink Stripes is a career accelerator platform to help women through upskilling, mentoring, and having access to the right opportunities, which will enable women and companies to move, in the needle of women participation in high growth sectors. She's also a key believer in the power to redesign financial services, catering to financial inclusion, putting customers, especially women, at the heart of open finance. Next up, we have Purvi. Purvi is the head developer relations at Tezos India. Purvi's experienced professional with a strong background in both management as well as technology. Having graduated from a prestigious business school and with a passion of solving complex problems, she started her journey as a software engineer in a renowned HR tech-focused MNC. And her company is one of the few who experimented with less popular languages like Scala and technologies like big data and distributed systems. Next, we have Tarusha. Tarusha is a COO and co-founder of Pocket, which is a universal investment platform on blockchain that enables users to invest in digital gold and silver as a safe hedge against inflation, and at the same time also utilizes investments for day-to-day transactions. Tarusha is responsible for operations and design at Pocket, and she has been vigorously working in the blockchain and crypto space since 2012. She also runs a pet project called Miss CEO, which empowers and mentors aspiring early stage women entrepreneurs. And last but not least, we have David. David here is a marketing manager at TZ APAC. David has led multiple marketing initiatives for both fintech and private banks, including Matchmove and UBS, and is also an early advocate for blockchain. Prior to this, David co-founded Arte Vision, which is a communications consultancy for regional blockchain firms, including Bluezell and Heaven. Okay, so thank you once again, panelists, for being on this webinar. And let's get the entire discussion rolling. Okay, so I think we can all agree that blockchain industry is doing very well, with many sectors joining in, and especially in this current climate, like blockchain is doing especially well. So I think what would be interesting to start off would be how you guys think fintech and blockchain would be reinventing or is reinventing finance. So to start off, maybe Seema, would you like to share your thoughts on this?
Hi. Firstly, Orianna, thank you for putting this together and for the warm introduction. And it's really a pleasure to be here together with all of you who are doing great work. So I think the, f- the value of fintech blockchain or in the scheme of finance redesign is just they are great enablers. Uh, and simply put, we are trying to reimagine how financial solutions will be delivered to a vast majority of the world. Just giving you some figures, on in Southeast Asia, 73% of people are not having access to banking services or financial services. That amounts to 450 million of the population alone, and it's just one region in the world, which means there's massive work in enabling access to finance to people. And it's not that they are necessarily poor, it's just that they don't have access to financial know-how. So enabling access to financial know-how, increasing the footprint of finance, which you mentioned early in the session, um, improving access to the financial data of people across different life stages, be it for insurance, mortgages, buying a house, pensions, getting that data aggregation done, and enabling that access needs some underlying support. And that's what fintech and blockchain is helping come alive, specifically in the area of trust. So blockchain is helping improve the trust among third-party exchange of data, which is key to aggregate data across the unbanked population, for example. So this is where we are moving towards a movement where we're saying banks are the sole governing body, or SWIFT is the governing body, to democratizing everything and saying that we are trying to build trusted networks where we can have seamless exchange of third-party data. And that's a very game changer. It's in the open finance world, so to say, in my view. Hi, I think cannot.
Sorry, sorry.
Orianna, you're on mute.
Yeah, sorry. That was a really good insight. Purvi, would you like to share next on how do you think fintech and blockchain is going to reinvent finance?
Sure. Hi, Oriana. Hello, everyone. Glad to be here and share my views on this. So what I feel is, it feels really exciting to see that, how just with a click, we can, make borderless transactions on DeFi platforms, decentralized finance. It's just like a buzzword right now. And, it's really amazing, right? Me coming from a financial background, and I have been very well acquainted with how traditional finance works, right? So, the very the most the simplicity that DeFi platforms, or blockchain as a whole is offering for anybody who want to make transactions, or it provides access to all the financial services, be it lending, borrowing, or maybe funding. So it could be anything, right? But if we go to any traditional finance system, like if you want to go to a bank for lending, borrowing, etc., right, there's a lot of paperwork that I feel that one needs to do. And not just paperwork, right? Know your customer, KYC. There's a lot that needs to be done before, getting access to these financial services. So, for instance, if I compare any exchange, right, any traditional exchange, like I'm from India, so if I compare BSC or NSC with the DeFi platforms like Uniswap, KubuSwap, I can see that difference, right? The simplicity in terms of UI, UX, right? If I go on to a traditional exchange, I would juggle between struggle with the financial terms. So if any layman, any person who's not well averse with those terms would not understand. Whereas when I go to a Uniswap, it's a very simple screen, right, wherein I know just with a click I can make that transaction happen. So I know it might be overwhelming for people who are not acquainted with how finance, how staking, how pooling, etc. works. But for any person who is into this and has been operating traditional finance or applications, or trying to get access to those services, would feel really excited to explore these. And not just that, I am really excited to see the permutation combinations that we are doing, the kind of services that we're offering with regards to decentralized finance. So, I mean, one would be the simplicity, right? It helps us, keep that paperwork aside. Just with a click, we can do anything. And another would be, I really like the UI, UX, and the simplicity of how decentralized financial applications are offering us.
Awesome. So hopefully if all these paperwork and documentations and these transactions will become a thing of the past, make everything easier. Okay, so Tarusha, from an investment point of view, because our Pocket does invest is an investment platform. What's your view on what would be your view on how fintech and blockchain would be changing the finance sector?
I think that, the change has already begun. There are people who are already like putting in their hard-earned money in crypto products, on DeFi platforms, right? There are tokens that people are playing around with. That they are doing, intraday trading, and there are some that are just hodling certain tokens. The good ones that you usually hodl, like perhaps like Tezos or like a Polygon token. So what I'm saying is that that particular change has already started, because of the crypto space and blockchain, coming into the fintech space. So what we are essentially doing is, now we are kind of pushing banks and the traditional, systems to basically innovate. Because if they don't innovate, they will slowly become very obsolete. What Purvi said about, how there is speed when it comes to, blockchain and crypto, and we all know that the way things move in this particular space, banks can't even think of that. It takes like days for an international transfer to happen. And we can do that, and we can facilitate that via crypto tokens, via our own platform, in mere seconds. So that is something that, obviously it is revolutionizing the way people can approach finance. But, this kind of comes with its own challenges, so to say, because it's a new field. And people do not really have all the trust, right now. The credibility, if you understand it, then you understand that, okay, this is where you can put your money, and this is where you can put your trust. But if you don't understand it, and usually when people don't understand something, they fear it, then that becomes like a challenge for us, the people who are creating solutions. So that is something that can be perhaps worked towards. But yes, I think that the change has already begun. And now the traditional systems, they would have to innovate to stay relevant. Otherwise, people would soon see the kind of advantage that DeFi and blockchain brings to fintech, and they would just make that switch, right?
Yeah, that is very true. But I think if everybody can understand it, I think it'll make everything so much easier. Like, because everything's so accessible, rather than like Purvi said, all the paperwork stacked, everywhere. Yeah. Okay. So last but not least, David, shall we hear your insights on how fintech and blockchain is reinventing finance?
Yeah, I think the moment that people actually think about finance and blockchain, the first thing that goes on to the mind is DeFi, like decentralized finance. And I think that's a very strong narrative of how using blockchain, using DeFi, using these financial services on the blockchain itself, it actually unlocks a lot of value into traditionally like illiquid assets, like in the forms of invoices, in the forms of loans, fixed deposits, insurance plans, and all the sort of stuff that if you buy, you just hold on to it, you just don't do anything else with it. And that actually, the unlocking of this value actually facilitate accessibility of these products to such as these products to actually become loans to the unbanked, underbanked, or how many all the different type of audience that we actually see, and at a fraction of the cost, because what it involves is that all these interactions are all being done through code. There's no central person that's actually facilitating this, which means there's a lot more efficiency in there. And this is a very, very natural fit to run finance on the blockchain because it's transparent. The data is actually shared in a very fast and secure way. And there's not a single person that needs to actually take responsibility. There's no risk in there in facilitation of or safeguarding of the data, because everything is all out in open. And this creates a lot of efficiencies between organizations and institutes, because they don't have to keep rerunning the same processes again and again. You know how the KYC process has been. You probably have to do like 10 KYCs in a year. And what this really means is that if we are looking at data aggregation, amendment, auditing, reporting, all this will all be streamlined. It's all on chain, and also in terms, it will actually lead to a lot of cost benefits for users, and also for companies. And also the availability of this data, right, on the chain is also is actually creating a very fast transaction compared to the conventional methods. And I think a very huge narrative on finance and blockchain and everything is also the environmental and ecological sustainability. They always say oh, Bitcoin mining is actually taking up so much energy. But to put it in perspective, just the top 100 banking data centers, these are traditional conventional banking data centers, they consume 2 times more energy than Bitcoin mining. And this is just the data centers. I'm not talking about the entire financial industry itself. So I guess if you do it in the comparison, it's already taking 2 times more energy than Bitcoin mining. And if you actually put it onto a sort of a proof of stake chain like Tezos, it would actually be 2 million times less energy in a comparison. So I think that's a lot to actually sort of grasp the idea of how actually fintech blockchain is actually not only being environment sustainable, but also fostering innovation, and also cleaning up the entire process of actually onboarding the underbanked and unbanked people in the world.
Yeah, I hear you. Yeah, so getting everybody on board to the fintech and blockchain industry for finance is definitely what everybody is going for. So besides what you guys mentioned, people getting used to the programs, the languages, or getting the grasp of everything. Besides those challenges, what other challenges do you think there are for in open finance? So Puvi, your company has experimented with languages like Scalar and big data. Besides all these languages and systems, are there any other challenges you feel that there will be presented in open finance?
Yeah, thanks, Orianna. So I think me being myself a DevRel person, right, I can very well sure that students are kind of there's a lack of awareness, there's a lack of education in the area. So when I speak with a lot of students, university graduates, because that is our major target audience, right? So they are always juggling between their curriculum and trying to land up in a good job. So telling them to explore something new, emerging, kind of gets overwhelming for them, because they're already doing a lot. So technology in itself is emerging all the time, right? So when I was back in college, I was learning C++, but when I see people now, they're learning JavaScript, right? So it keeps on changing, right? There's no constant to it. But then you tell them, why don't you learn blockchain? They're like, we'll go crazy. Right. So I think, we really need to make sure that universities understand, about this emerging technology and, how it's going to change the entire, perspective going forward. So I think if they add it to the curriculum, that would definitely solve a problem for us. However, we are facilitating all the resources that we can, we are giving them the proper pathways to learn. So for example, I'm from Tezos, we are making them learn SmartPy, right? So we are providing all the resources, but then at the same time we need to realize that they need to balance a lot of things, right? They have pressure from the parents, families, to get good jobs and stable jobs. People, then on a separate note, if I see it, people fear experimenting new, because you are just someone. So for example, from a university wherein you have 800 people in tech sector, you are 10 students who are exploring this new technology, and it gets overwhelming, because all of the others are landing in good jobs, Amazon and big companies, and you're experimenting, and you don't know how your future will how the future of this will be. Plus although it's emerging, but there's a lot of experimenting. Like I can see that there's a lot in this space for anybody to learn. So somebody who's like from a non-finance or non-tech background would feel overwhelmed, like what is this? There's so many apps doing the same job. So that is one challenge that I feel. Second one, the most important one, would be the regulatory and the compliance, right? We don't know how this thing will be seen later. So there are a lot of countries that take this in a different light. So for example, if I talk about United States, they have regulated it. But if I talk about India, we have no regulations, no laws, nothing. People are, they're just oblivion, like what's gonna happen. So if I invest in Bitcoin today, maybe would I be sent to jail tomorrow? I don't know. Right? So that kind of fear always exists. And what if they just do not allow it at all, right? Countries like India, China, whereas we have countries like Switzerland, they allow you pay taxes in Bitcoin, right? So we see that there's a lot of regulatory challenges that we are going to face once we move forward with this, because it gets very difficult to convince government with the benefits that it can offer, right? Or the coexistence that can be there, right? And the banks itself, like all the financial sectors, everything is controlled by governments of the countries, right? And banks might have their own resistance, because they might feel that blockchain and technology might eat away on their profits or revenue generation, right? Because whatever they have been doing from so many years, like couple lines of code could do that. So it's kind of unacceptable as well. So it's going to be very challenging to mold the governments in favor of this, but then we can always try to sink in and coexist. That's how I see it.
Yeah, agree totally. Hopefully every country would be on the track with regulations and all, and we can get forward with all this. So actually, like from Tarusha, like for you are from a you guys deal with digital gold and silver, as an investment platform and all. So against to as a safe hedge against inflation, do you think that that sector has other challenges that you guys might face in this open finance?
The challenges would be pretty much very similar to what Purvi kind of outlined. They would be a lot in terms of compliance, because this is a new era altogether. It's not just, tokenized gold and silver, which we have done so on Tezos, but we are also in the process of tokenizing other asset classes. The idea is to give fractional ownership to users so that they actually can be in charge of how their money is building wealth, right? How they are doing their wealth creation. They need to be a little more in, have that freedom, basically. That's the freedom of choice. So moving forward, the challenges in terms of investments, it will be, yes, compliance related. You would have to actually see, because every jurisdiction has their own kind of laws, right? There are certain jurisdictions that are more open to this kind of innovation that is coming in. There are others, sadly, that have not really caught up, and they create policies more retrospectively. I believe, India, it falls in that category, considering we do not really have any laws right now, even though we have like really big exchanges, right? And we have all of these big companies, that big platforms like, Polygon is from India. So we have all of these companies that are innovating, and they're creating such, solutions, such amazing solutions. But the thing is that our policy is kind of a little regressive, and they have not really caught on. So that might become a challenge as we move forward, because if there is some sort of a knee-jerk reaction, then how do you sort of deal with it? But hopefully, I believe that the policymakers can be perhaps made to see the value in this as well. I understand that this is completely changing the way things have been done for years now in banks, in the way traditional finance works. As Puri said, that a few lines of code can automate what they've been doing for years, and they keep toiling for days doing the same thing. That is there, and that can be very intimidating. But that is also like gives you scope to grow. Grow your economy, or to sort of facilitate like an ecosystem, which would only help your not just your GDP, but just the morale of the population as well, because you're dealing with something so innovative, right? So those kind of things are also important. I believe it's not just okay if innovation for the sake of innovation. I think that because problems are getting there are real problems that are getting solved by these platforms, I think policymakers would have to be a little cued in there. So that can be one challenge in terms of investments. The other challenge that I see primarily in the DeFi and the crypto space is, the UI UX. I think that um, still we are very far away from mass adoption, because it's very intimidating for anybody to say create an account on, say, a Kraken or a Poloniex or even a WazirX in India, and not be intimidated by all the numbers and the charts that they see, right? Because if a layperson is doing it, we understand it, and for us it seems really easy that, okay, there are just like 5-6 steps, and we are done. But for a layperson, it can be intimidating. So the UI UX aspect, I think nobody has really cracked it well enough. But I don't really fault the industry here. I believe that we are too much of a dynamic industry, which is kind of in its infancy. So we are just growing, and UI UX is something that we will get to. And once we do crack it, that is when mass adoption would kick in, because there is nothing more beautiful than people kind of using the solution and not even understanding how it kind of works at the back end. So they don't necessarily need to know that, okay, this is the blockchain that is being used. As long as the interface is crisp, clear, and in a few steps they're able to accomplish what they want.
Yeah, it's about deep understanding, which blockchain has come so far, but we still have so much more to learn with everyone. Yeah. So okay, thank you, Tarusha. David, you were an early advocate of blockchain. Do you think that the challenges were faced before in the beginning are the same as now, or has it remained almost the same?
Yeah, maybe I'll tackle this in two ways, right? First, for maybe fintechs and financials, in open finance first. Yeah, like with my experience with fintechs and how open finance is working out is that there's actually a lot of platform friction. And then this will be in the form of okay, so now I get access to all these APIs and this and there's this whole wealth of data, but like how a company actually utilize the data, what measurements was actually being used to actually create this data. This has a lot of differences between the different companies that actually adopt it. So for example, if I'm a company and I want to use these data points, it means I have to actually put in significant investments, maybe in terms of developers to actually connect all these API apps and actually create my solution. So this might not at all times actually fit well for especially like fintechs if they're actually on a seed phase or they're on a very early phase where they may not have this kind of resources available. Another area would be also the type of data that's being provided. Data from party A might have a very different matrix of how they actually do measurement compared to data from party B, even if it's even if the APIs are made available for everybody. So I think that is one issue with which I think like a lot of fintech is facing, especially with open finance. And I think the second area would be, I think this is something that Puvi and Tarusha has chimed in as well, is in terms of compliance and usability. It's always trade-off, right? In that sense, where you have to either balance compliance and regulation with usability. The more secure an app goes, the less usable it's going to be. That is how it's measured off. So yeah, in some sense, it's always this question: do fintechs and do blockchain companies that's developing on blockchain, do they need to do more than the base security requirement, or should they sacrifice a bit of user experience and put significant capital investments to actually increase these security requirements? It's always a question. I think in terms of regulators, any companies, nobody's able to actually give a concrete answer for that now of where it should sit. I think we need a lot more data points to actually see where this goes. And I think that's an issue with especially with open finance. Then if I were to touch on the blockchain space, blockchain space is where I always say it's the code that actually enables the trustless transactions, right? You don't need to trust the developer, you just need to trust the code. You just need to be able to know that the code is safe, that it will act the way it's supposed to. So in some sense, it's like code is law. And there are questions of okay, so if there's this smart contract which I'm interacting with, how do you safeguard users from malicious actors? that wants to exploit these codes for for financial benefits, or or in general to prevent money laundering, which is a huge matter that's in the blockchain space as well. I think there's no concrete answers now, but there's a lot of solutions that people are exploring to see what works. For instance, especially in the Tezos blockchain, where for enterprise individuals can actually participate as bakers. That enables so bakers actually it's a proof of stake network. So they actually one is staking and actually creating the blocks on the Tezos blockchain. So they have the ability to actually include transactions that has been whitelisted into the blocks that they bake. So they can ensure that in some sense it's actually creating sort of a segment of compliance in an otherwise public permissionless blockchain. Yeah, so just round up, I think in terms of my points, I would say that even with these challenges, the benefits of open finance that they provide to actually consumers, to service providers, are just amazing, and it still has to be something that's that should be supported to actually create a better financial system worldwide. Yeah.
Yeah, I totally agree. Can't wait for this new technology to be in the financial sector. So next would be Seema.
Hi.
Yeah.
So I think I'm gonna share from the open finance world, and I'm gonna put on my product hat here. So when you design products, I think I'll just take an example of what the likes of Alibaba have done, right? That's a splendid case of how they disrupted the whole financial industry 5 years ago, 6 years ago, with mass user acquisition. You can do wealth management on the platform. There's Baidu, there's Alibaba. They have proven that on scale. They are not necessarily may or may not be using blockchain, but they have proven that when certain architectural and product principles are in place, you can build trust. So building trust is probably the core of inclusion, because that's how the banks took most of the customers for all these decades, because they had the trust factor. And and today the banks are struggling because of the Alibabas. I'm just quoting Alibaba because that's the one thing that's been in the regime. The way these platforms have disrupted that you could do payments, wealth management, everything outside banks is a phenomenal example of how leveraging blockchain, the trust in open finance, we can design products for simplicity, to the point of what Tarusha said, and also maybe set up regulations where people are geared towards adoption, right? So the mass adoption. Blockchain is a great tool to go for the trust, and I guess we'll have to find out use cases. So the use cases which will really tickle in the in specific markets, so that we can target the segments that are not being banked. So it is about understanding the needs and architecting the solutions, and that's where I think it's so exciting, the whole space of open finance. And all your points were all just right on simplicity, need for compliance, but I think they all have to coexist. And going back to what Purvi said, it's a ecosystem of collaborators, so there's no competition. We just have a lot to do, so it's a great challenge to be in, to solve together.
Amazing. Yeah, I think everybody's looking forward to the next steps in fintech and blockchain, the financial sector. Even I am looking forward to it. So yeah, next up, let's talk about the challenges aside. What do you think the future of financial services is? So maybe you can start off with Teresa.
Sure. So, in terms of the future, I believe like this is a very, very exciting space for the kind of opportunities that it brings to all the stakeholders. So, now not only can you be like an investor and be a stakeholder in like the next big thing that is being built, right? By perhaps buying or getting into their seed sale, or perhaps getting into the getting on these IDO platforms and getting hold of some of their tokens. So you're actually like a stakeholder in platforms and projects that you believe in. So that is pretty futuristic according to me right now itself. But as moving forward, as I said, that there will be immense opportunities in terms of everybody who's a part of the ecosystem, be it men or women. There is basically like a little bit of a misconception that for blockchain, for you to get into blockchain and crypto, you need to be perhaps an engineer, right? And that is a notion that I try to dispel in every conversation that I in every like speaking opportunity that I get. Basically, this is like this is an entire sector in itself. We need people from all backgrounds, for all profiles. So people should not have that particular hang up, right? That okay, they need to be of a certain profile or a certain background to be able to get into this space. You only need to have an open mind. You need to sort of be open to the fact that you'll have to learn a lot, because blockchain, again, because it's very new, we are still far away from the time when, as Purvi had mentioned, that perhaps it can be a part of the curriculum itself. So nobody is really trained, right? Everybody is just learning the ropes as they go, and there are new things that are coming into play every day. So we just need to sort of accept that, have an open mind, and deep dive into it, rather than thinking that okay, this might be too risky, because you need to understand the technology. Perhaps go back to the very basics. There is something very beautiful that Anderson Antonopoulos had said in the Internet of Money, that people keep telling me about the volatility of crypto tokens, and how can you be in it when there is it's so volatile. And he had said that I'm not in it for the volatility aspect. Look at that, but look at the long game, look at the technology, fall in love with the technology. Obviously, I'm paraphrasing here, but essentially, the idea here is that you need to understand why decentralization is important. And it's not just in finance. It's important. It's going to become more and more important as we move forward. The socio-political and geopolitical scenario that is kind of playing out in every part of the world right now would make it necessary that we take back a little bit more power. So I think the future is very exciting. There are immense there's a lot of opportunity, there's a lot of scope for people to join this bandwagon and basically increase their skill set. It's you're going to have like a hyper learning growth phase, but once you accept that and you're open to it, it's just going to be very, very exciting. So yes, you should definitely look into positions and look at platforms that you believe in, and look at what positions they are perhaps hiring for. You'll be surprised at how diverse teams are. It's not just engineers. So that is like one notion that I would like to dispel. And yeah, I'm very biased because I'm working here, but I feel that the future is very exciting, considering that more and more people are becoming aware of this space, and they want to get involved.
Yeah, agree, definitely. Because and now every time on the news, you will always hear blockchain news, upcoming in blockchain and fintech. Yeah, it's like the new buzzword. So David, you thank you, Tarisha. David, you co-founded a communications consultancy for the regional blockchain firms. What do you think the future of financial services will be?
So actually one of the companies which I was helping out was actually in the DeFi space. So yeah, like coming from from blockchain space, I'm actually really excited to see how DeFi is actually making its mark. If you look at like decentralized exchanges where participants can utilize and exchange one blockchain asset for another one, or actually participate to be a trade facilitator of sorts, for sort of a passive income investment strategy. And if you actually dive deeper into this simple mechanism, it's actually allowing people to actually create like deep liquidity into a perhaps illiquid asset. And how I see it is similar to how Google actually unlocks the world to information. Facebook unlocks the world to social connections and interaction and everything. Like perhaps blockchain would be the key to actually unlocking the world to a lot of a lot of the untapped financial services and products that are available. So that's something that I'm actually looking at. And like if you're looking at like borrowing and lending, like it's all governed by smart contracts, right? So if you're looking at a risk level, it's very low. As long as you understand, of course, the caveat is that you have to understand the smart contracts and like know what's going on over there. But like for example, if I do have money lying around, for instance, in some stable coins, I can actually lend out to people who perhaps collateralize their Bitcoin because they still want to hang on to their Bitcoin, but like on my end, I have very little counterparty risk because it really depends on like how much they over collateralize their assets, what's the ratio, and the accessibility of such loans can be done within a minute. Like of depositing your mortgage asset to the chain and borrowing the asset that you seek, and maybe it's just like 2 clicks of like approving 2 smart contracts, and it's trustless. And as long as the smart contract again has been rigorously audited for flaws and exploits, you're pretty safe. And how I see the future of financial services actually utilizing this is that they could perhaps fintech companies can actually provide a front end, especially echoing what Sarusha has mentioned. They could provide a front end where consumers do not need to actually face the chain if they opt not to. Open banking data could actually facilitate this all in a mobile app, with automated digital signature and a conversion of real world assets into a NFT of non-fungible tokens, and collateralized into maybe a pool of 2% APY pool, and then after they can get a loan in perhaps a CBDC, central bank digital currency, at a rate of maybe 6% APY. And again, all of this is all done in maybe just 1 minute and 2 or 3 clicks. So this really gives you I find it gives me a very nice perspective of oh, there's so many opportunities available for financial services and for consumers as a whole, and also in terms of lowering the barriers, increasing the speed, and making it frictionless in a way.
Yeah, so it's about upskilling yourself and having the right access to the right opportunities, for everyone, which actually is Seema's area of expertise. Yeah,
I was just listening to Dave, and then I have one thing to kind of it was really exciting. Yeah. Future of financial services is really awesome. For the first time in my 2 decades of experience in this industry, I'm so positive about the changes that are coming. So last 5 years have been really phenomenal, the rapid pace of change. So it's inclusive. I think the whole ethos of what we are doing with Pink Stripes, which is a career accelerator platform for women, is to give women the mental muscle, and to think that financial services is not something which is working in fintechs is not a very geeky stuff. And to Tarisha's point, it's all about you have diverse roles. We have actually run sessions where we explain women the different opportunities in fintech, and how they can be a part of it. We do it domain wise, and we also do it skill set wise, because it's a lot of time, it's like you said, it's the fear of the unknown, simply because in the last 2 decades technology has been ruthlessly changing, and the people who were in technology for a long time, they've been averse, they become change averse, but across the years, the technology has been building into all sectors, and this is where the whole mass adoption work is, right? Where people are not used to this rapid pace of change, not used to hearing so many jargons. We are now. So I think it's not about being overwhelmed with the change, but about scoping it. So what we do is we haven't touched blockchain yet, but we will soon. We talk a lot about careers in cloud, fintech, what are the different options in payments and in the wealth management. So that's the space that we are trying to build more awareness, and with women who are more than 10 years work experience, and basically the very very hardworking and driven. It's just that the lack of awareness. Although we are living in an era where, thanks to the pandemic, we have so much access to information online, right? I mean, we can't complain about the upskilling know-how that we have and all the platforms who are giving us. You have the Udemy's, you have the Coursera's. One good thing that we tried within Pink Stripes and also outside is creating the peer circles. So a lot of peer circle group sessions, mentoring, and that basically helps people get onto it in the first 3 months, and then they take on it a longer term. So I think those are the few things that we have tried at our platform and outside, and I think that's great for anybody who wants to upskill. So the future of financial services is really bright. It's you have space to be creative. It's you don't have to be only an auditor. To Daniel's point, you don't have to be only doing accounting. You could be a designer. You could be someone who loves to do software architecture or product or risk and compliance. It's diversity. Women play a lot to offer. Simply, not that I'm biased about it, simply because one of the other things is the banking solutions were not primarily designed for taking women in perspective. So this is where more and more women should actually contribute it so that they can get the solutions they need to run their daily stuff. So this is just why I'm passionate about it.
Yeah, there's so many opportunities for everyone in the blockchain industry. There's so many things to do, so many things to learn. Coming to that's leading us to the most exciting and interesting question, which encompasses this entire webinar, Women in Blockchain. What do you guys think about the opportunities for women in open finance or in the blockchain sector? Do you actually think that there are very few women in this space, or what is the future like? The opportunities that women can have in this entire, be it open finance or be it blockchain, Purvi, would you like to start?
Sure. Sure. So, Orianna, first of all, how I see this is, this is a disruption, right? This is a breakthrough, right? So it's not about when it's gonna be, if it's gonna be embraced, it's like when it's gonna be embraced, right? Sooner or later, everybody will get on board and realize the potential it has. And, this is gonna never go away. That is how I see it. But when I talk about women in blockchain, I feel that, I can't say that women are more risk averse, but, maybe because of, there's a lot of like personal stuff with women compared to men, right? We all can relate to that. But, just in general, even in traditional finance, I have not seen many investment bankers as women, right? It's not about blockchain or open finance. It's like in general, women would not choose such career options because a lot of things, maybe pressure from the families or, wanted to do something stable or could not afford to, give so much hours, time commitment to the jobs. So all I wanted to say here is that, there are like ample of opportunities for, it totally depends on you, how you want to embrace this, right? So for example, if there's a developer, right, I will just give a shout out to all the women developers there. You should definitely learn one blockchain language, right? Maybe you can do what you're doing. You just don't have to take this as your full-time career at this point of time, maybe, right? You can learn Solidity for Ethereum, you can learn SmartPy for Tezos, but you can definitely, try to explore more and more opportunities in this space because, like I said, sooner or later, this is going to be the next big thing, right? After so many, technological disruptions that have happened, right? So I would just say that, development is one part of it. There are like so many things that you can do, right? You can be a project manager. This is new, this is emerging, right? So if you just go to the jobs portal, you'll understand that, people want all kind of people for like different job profiles here. You can be a project manager, you can be a lead, you can be a designer, you can be a protocol developer, you can be a DevRel coordinator, you can be a marketing manager, right? So it's not like, you have to be a developer. You just don't have to think just because you are into technology, we have this, I don't know, we usually have the stereotype that if you're in technology, you are usually coding, but that is not true with it, right? There's a lot you can, work on the use cases, you can work on new projects, you can just so there's like ample of opportunities. All I want to say to all the women developers is, this is definitely, I would, agree with Seema. Like she said, we want more and more women to embrace this. It's simplistic. It's better than, traditional finance. Even if we have those, if we face those challenges of, giving a lot of time commitment, then I feel like, proactiveness is one thing, but then at the same time, we need to realize that it's more about networking. It's more about, putting it out there, right? Whatever you have in your mind. Usually, there might be some hindrance in terms of fear of unknown. We don't know, how this works. What is this? We should be more open to about it, and we should be like, tell us whatever it is, right? When I joined this space, I did not know what blockchain is, right? I did my graduation in, although I was an IT engineer, I knew how to develop. I was in finance, I was in operations, but then I did not know what blockchain is. So I think we should never be afraid to ask questions. It's okay, right? And it's new. Nobody knows everything. At this point of time, at least, nobody knows everything. So I think this is a disruption. This is a breakthrough. And I don't want women to be part of it. I want women to lead this change.
Awesome. That was so well said. Thank you, Puri. Yeah, so it's about, I think, breaking the stereotype and just, trying new opportunities in this blockchain and open finance or anything is not just segregated, between genders or any stereotype. So like Teresa, you run a small pet project called Miss CEO.
Yeah.
Would you like to share more about that and, opportunities for women everywhere?
Sure. So, what we're doing with Miss CEO is primarily just sort of helping out women in the very basics, that, stuff like just getting their business plan ready and finding out like a product market fit, getting the initial traction, and, how to basically bootstrap your company until you reach a point where, you're ready to sort of raise funds and, scale it. So that is about that. But in terms of just the kind of opportunities, not just in the blockchain space, as we already covered, that we need to sort of let go of the stereotypes, because the opportunities that this the blockchain ecosystem is going to be creating for fintech as a whole is going to be immense. There are going to be different types of protocols. We already are seeing very innovative solutions in terms of lending and swapping and kind of staking, etc. I myself have like another startup which is for group farming and staking called Unifarm. So the kind of protocols that are being built, they're very innovative, they're very new solutions. The good thing is that with blockchain things move fast and we can innovate faster. We fail faster and we keep innovating. That is not an advantage that the traditional financial world they have, because these are like institutions and they can't really innovate that quickly. So we need to keep that in mind as when we are kind of trying to gauge opportunities or the kind of scope that blockchain has in the coming years. So that is something, it's good to keep reminding yourself that there's going to be faster innovation happening here. Another good thing to remember, which kind of alludes to the same point that Purvi was talking about, that blockchain is a great equalizer. Like that is, I believe that there are opportunities for everybody. I believe that if you have a phone and an internet connection, then you can find like a way to upgrade your skills, to learn, and to really get into this space. And it's not just as like an investor, as a user for these platforms, but also to actually start working on these platforms yourself. So it's you need to sort of keep that in mind as well when you're again looking at opportunities for not just for women, but for everybody. And for women specifically, I think that again, a lot of good points are covered by Purvi, that there are no stupid questions. Please ask, because none of us know everything. We learn something new every day, considering this space is so dynamic. So don't be diffident, and do not think that okay, you can't get into this space because the policy might not be there yet. Because ultimately you're still creating a solution for a bigger problem that might not seem very big to you, but that is the beauty of blockchain. You're solving a problem for a nameless, faceless person at the other side of the world, and you have a hand to play in it. So that is the kind of beauty that you need to sort of remember when you're trying to make a decision to jump on this bandwagon.
Amazing, well said. Yeah, so next, Pink Stripes, co-founder of Pink Stripes, Seema, center of the woman
So, thanks, Oriana. I think one thing we keep telling women is, and I usually, you would have seen, I have a bit of more rounded view on these things. Blockchain is one thing, fintech is another thing, your life is a third thing. We are usually always dealing with zillion things in life, and women are so great problem solvers. So multitasking, problem solving is inherent in our DNA, right? We are exhibiting it day in day out in different roles that we play in society, at work, at home. And that's how Pink Stripes positions women. So we say, you already are doing so much in your lives, and if you have to work in tech, it's not rocket science. No. So this is exactly what we say, because the reason, and just Purvi, a small note, the co-founder of Pink Stripes is an ex-investment banker in Bombay, and she had to quit that industry after 12 years for different reasons, and that will be for a different session. But I'm just sharing that we get overwhelmed at certain stage, because it's not that we can't do tech, it's not that we can't cross the barriers, it's just that we need the right support systems. And this is where one key thing that we try to encourage women to always have mentors and sponsors. And this could be your peers, it could be a man, woman, whoever you're comfortable with, because it is a journey, right? Whether you're going to be studying blockchain, or you're going to be founding a company, or you're going to be doing fintech, everywhere you need a mentor. So and some of the good people who are successful, they have had great mentors, right? I mean, there's a quote by Oprah Winfrey, which we used when we launched the mentoring program last year, said every person has had a mentor, nobody knows it all. It is a journey, like Puri, Trisha, you all are saying. We will be uncovering new skills, new problems along the way. And beyond technology, there are so many human problems to solve daily, right? And all that needs that peer support and the mentoring. So this is our take to the whole thing. You could do blockchain, you could choose the role of your interest, provided there is a bit of systems around what you're doing, like a planning, and we have the mentors there. So I think we there's Puri and Terusha both, and David, you all are doing awesome work with blockchain. So you guys can slowly start mentoring a lot of women, and I think you probably are doing it in your own projects. But that's where I see is a great power to enable more women in blockchain. I think there's a question in the audience.
I think one somebody raised her hand.
Yeah, I think Anandi wants to share
She's probably
something.
agreeing with you.
Oh, yeah. She's a mentee on our platform, by the way, and she's a entrepreneur, a fintech entrepreneur too. Welcome, Anandi. So yeah, so basically all valid points. The whole stereotyping. I think that's the norm that we need to break by, and that will enable women to be more comfortable as they grow on in their careers, right? So it's a systemic issues. It's systemic issues, but we can still do it, and thanks to platforms like BS, and I think men are doing a lot. And David, for you, so that's my view. Women have now more access to upskilling than ever. Women have, it's no better time than to be a woman now, in my view. We just can do, we won't be like, things will not change overnight, but they will improve. I think this is where it is.
Yeah, I agree with you. It's an awesome time to be a woman. We can be anything, and we're such good jugglers. We have so many things on our heads, but we still can do it well.
Yeah.
Okay, David, would you like to share your opinions or your views on this particular topic?
Yeah, like I think it's actually a great time to actually explore on the blockchain. So yeah, just putting out there, if any women actually want to start building on blockchain, I encourage you. Yeah, so I think like especially for blockchain industry, it's actually a very nascent stage where it's so small that all talent is celebrated, and the ecosystem is actually very inclusive. And like what Seema has mentioned, systemic sexism is not really embedded into blockchain as compared to what you have seen with like especially traditional finance. Of course, traditional finance, they have actually been doing initiative to tackle it, but it's still there. And there's a sense of community where where all within this panel itself and everybody in the blockchain space, everybody in fintech space, they are driven towards the common success of of these systems, of these open financial systems. And this same community also it always craves a fresh, diverse perspective and a contribution of how do you actually change up this whole entire field. And these provide opportunities for women to actually jump in, because that's where a lot of diversity and a lot of different fresh views actually comes in. Definitely in terms of how thoughts are structured, how what are the different concerns that are being raised. That's where I think there's a lot of value in there. And I think that the whole part of blockchain space, again, where code is again the law, provides women with opportunities to actually dive deeper into STEM fields, which is the science, technology, engineering, math field. And that's where I've seen a lot of anonymous developers where they just hide behind the scene, they create a great product, they push out their smart contracts, their code, and this being embraced by the open source environment. In this open source environment where everybody just oh, this is actually a great product. I don't need to know who's the developer. I just know that it's a great product, and that's actually enough for a lot of people actually to be able to develop on this environment. And it doesn't matter whether you're working at home in some Bali resort or it just makes sense in that sense. And I think that provides a lot more incentivization for women to actually start exploring more into STEM, and especially since this environment is also of a centralized or a corporate ladder kind of view. And echoing what a lot of keywords which I've been hearing, equalizer, key support systems, stereotyping. I've heard these keywords, and I think there's a lot of great initiative that's actually being taken in Singapore, where to actually lower this kind of barriers of entry, especially to coding. For example, the MOE has actually introduced coding courses to primary and secondary school level to actually reduce this fear of unknown or unfamiliarity with code, because as Puvi mentioned, it's something that people will actually not navigate towards because it's it's seen as risky and unknown. And this brings it to a lot of a sense of normalcy of oh, code, yeah, I've done it since secondary school, I've done it since primary school. It's actually it's something I'm not unfamiliar with. And just put it out there, within the Tezos ecosystem, I've also seen a lot of women actually taking up roles in developer activities. Looking at Puvi over here, in Tezos India, leading a lot of the DevRel activation, and she's joined by so many other women, which I've actually seen taking up adoption evangelism, to speak and talk about technology. That's something that's not really easy. Even which I will say that even for myself, I would not find it's an easy topic to actually approach. So just to conclude my points, I think at the end of the day, STEM fields is still a male-dominated industry, and there has to be more concentrated efforts to actually attract women into space. There are opportunities over there. We just have to actually facilitate this through upskilling, through getting people more familiar with with STEM fields and everything. And I think that will actually in general actually build a stronger ecosystem as a whole.
Yeah, thank you, David. I think it's so awesome that women are actually stepping up into this blockchain industry, especially if you're a developer and people find out that you are a female developer. People will be in such awe because it's so cool. You are a female developer, because it's actually quite rare, but it's definitely up and coming. Yeah. So and I think women can bring a lot to the table. So kudos for that. Okay, before we wrap up this, any last advice or you would like to give to our audience? Seema, maybe you can start off.
One trick would be to, which I guess is probably being implemented, the compensation of developers should be the highest. I think a lot of countries have implemented that. And that tends to be a driver for a lot of people to take those careers. I mean, one is the marketing adoption and the stereotyping, but I just thought I should share that. When there's higher compensation, people tend to go there.
Okay.
I've seen that
Um,
work in a few countries. That's the reason I'm suggesting.
That's true. That's true. uh, Tarusha, would you like to share any last?
Yeah. So just to conclude, I think blockchain is an absolutely exciting and dynamic space currently, and there are immense opportunities for everybody. As I keep saying again and again, that it's like supposed to be the greatest equalizer after the internet, and people should really try to milk that in whatever way they can. For women specifically, I think that you should really uh, just go after what you feel really strongly about. It's very important that you do that. You have to keep in mind that you cannot really give from an empty cup. So you have to fill your own cup, and you have to make sure that you are living your own truth before you can nurture somebody else, or pay heed to the external factors. You have one short life, so go after what you want to really you feel strongly about, and do it. And you'll find the right people if you just ask for help. So do not be reluctant about that, because as you've mentioned again and again, that nobody knows everything right from the start. And you just have to keep an open mind that, okay, yeah, you're going to learn a lot of things, and that is quite all right. And that is actually the exciting part here. So yeah.
Yeah, so it's like chasing your passion and just believing you can, just like Puri.
Yeah.
And Puri, any?
Yeah, so all I want to say is, you never know what you want to do. So keep exploring, right? I started my journey as an engineer, did my MBA, and I again entered tech, right? So all I want to say is, although we'll keep encouraging you to join the sector, we'll keep telling you, what are the risks associated, as well as, what all career paths you can choose. But not just that, me, David at Tezos, we'll also be providing you with the resources, right? So I'm leading several initiatives for Tezos. So I am just gonna say to all the women out there, in fact, to all the developers out there, guys, we are looking for you. So we are gonna provide you with all the resources, everything, hackathons, anything. If you want to join us as a developer, or maybe any other profile, just keep in tune with Tezos, keep in touch with all the latest developments that are happening in the space, and we're all ears to listen to you, to answer your queries and anything else.
Awesome. You guys will make awesome mentors. Okay, last but not least, David.
I think just echoing what Seema mentioned, right? Like it pays well. So because that there's so little developers in the space, there's so little blockchain professionals. So that should be the priority, which I was saying. Just off that, just looking at the whole conversation about upskilling and everything, the barriers of entry has never been lower. If we're actually looking at the whole blockchain space, it's open source in general, and the entire community is online. I'll say maybe perhaps like only 1% is offline, but it's a online first community. So that means all the resources that you will require to actually maybe study, or start picking up pieces on your own time, it's all there, it's all online. So I think this gives a lot of opportunity to actually if it's something that women in general, or particularly for one person, actually they want to actually explore developing a blockchain, or they want to explore learning about blockchain. I think the resource is there. So that would be what I would actually encourage everybody to actually do. If you're interested in blockchain, you want to actually, or you have some curiosity about blockchain, of how it works, just start Googling. The answers are there.
Amazing.
Just to add, right? So I think you all have said the power of ecosystem, and Purvi, you're doing a lot of effort on the Tezos side, and Tarusha, you're mentoring CEOs, and Pinkstripes is offering mentoring in fintech. So I think it's the power of ecosystem that we have to leverage. So that's beyond what we can offer is the ecosystem effort, and yes, maybe there should be some compensation effort from somewhere else. So yeah.
The motivation.
The carrot.
The Karen listing theory.
Yeah, no, definitely. It was like, just to add to Seema's point, I think, in case if somebody is like exploring, obviously get in touch with Purvi and David. They're doing like a wonderful work at Tezos. And in case you're just exploring and you want to know if blockchain is for you, and you don't come from a tech background, so just take cue from me. I was a student in humanities, so now it's been 12 years in as a deep tech entrepreneur. So I was a self-taught techie. And this is like 10 years ago when there wasn't so much information online, but basically, you learn by doing as well. But yeah, happy to be in touch with anybody who would like to sort of know if this is the right leap for them. I'm very active on Twitter. So, you can perhaps shoot me a DM, and I'm happy to actually put some weight behind my words of really, really helping out, women who want to get in this space.
Awesome. Okay, I think this has been a very informative, very insightful, and I would say very inspiring webinar for everyone out there, not only for women, but for everyone out there. So okay, let's wrap up this webinar. It's been very, very, just feel so motivated now. Okay, thank you people, thank you everyone for tuning in, and once again, thank you to our panelists for gracing our event, and because you guys are experts in your own field, and thank you for giving your insights and views on our topics. And we hope to see you again on another panel, sharing probably another topic.
Thank you, Orianna, for organizing.
Thank you so much.
Thank you, everyone.
Thank you, everyone. Bye.
Bye.